You've tried something for hot flashes, brain fog, or poor sleep, and yet nothing really seems to change. The problem may not be the herb itself. It may simply be the wrong herb for your particular pattern. The supplement industry often reduces complex health concerns to simple labels: hormones, memory, metabolism. Traditional herbal medicine took a very different approach. In traditional herbal medicine, a plant was never chosen simply because a particular symptom was present. What mattered was how that symptom appeared. Was it a pattern of heat or depletion, restlessness or exhaustion, dryness, poor nourishment? Traditional healing systems looked beyond the symptom itself. They looked for the pattern behind it. So the most important question was never, what's the most popular herb? It was, how are these symptoms actually showing up? Traditional herbal texts didn't look for a remedy for menopause. They looked for a plant that matched the pattern in which the symptoms appeared. In this video, we'll explore 7 of the most common areas affected during menopause and the natural remedies that have long been valued in European herbalism, traditional folk medicine, and other historical healing traditions. We'll also look beyond the plants themselves, because traditional herbalists also paid close attention to how a remedy was prepared. As a tea, food, a powder, an oil, or an extract. That too was considered part of traditional herbal knowledge. Not every preparation was thought to be interchangeable. Let's begin with the symptom that most people associate with menopause. You wake up in the middle of the night. The sheets are damp, even though the bedroom is cool. And suddenly it feels as if someone has turned on a heater deep inside your body. But traditional herbal medicine did not view every form of heat as the same. It distinguished between excessive sweating, recurring hot flashes, and a deeper, more persistent internal imbalance. That is why several remedies may appear to address the same problem, while actually belonging to very different patterns. From medieval herbals to the works of physician Gerhard Madaus, sage appears again and again as an important plant in the European herbal tradition. Even its botanical name, salvia, reflects its long-standing reputation as a medicinal herb. Sage was valued for far more than its use in the kitchen. In traditional herbal medicine, it was associated with excessive moisture, heavy perspiration, and a body that struggled to regulate heat calmly. The leaves are the part most commonly used, traditionally prepared as a tea. When sweating itself is the dominant complaint, sage can therefore be a natural place to begin. But the form matters. A cup of sage tea or a carefully prepared herbal product is not the same as taking sage essential oil internally. Essential oils are highly concentrated and should not simply be taken by the drop. Sage belongs above all to this pattern. The body is sweating too much. This is where the difference between traditional herbal medicine and modern marketing becomes clear. Today, the message is often simply, menopause, take sage. Traditional herbalists asked a different question first. Is sweating really the main problem? But what if the issue is not just the sweating itself? What if the entire wave of heat, nighttime restlessness, and broader menopausal symptoms is the real pattern? Then we encounter a plant from a very different healing tradition. Black cohosh is native to North America. The parts traditionally used are the plant's thick underground roots and rhizomes. In Native American and later Western herbal traditions, black cohosh was valued for women's complaints, physical tension, and painful conditions. Over time, it became an established part of Western herbal medicine. Today, black cohosh is most closely associated with hot flashes, night sweats, and the broader pattern of discomfort that can accompany menopause. Unlike sage, it is not usually prepared as an everyday household tea. It is most often taken as an extract in tablets or capsules. And this is where an important distinction appears. With black cohosh, the plant itself is only part of the equation. The type of extract, the processing method, and the concentration can all influence the final preparation. A standardized extract is not the same as an ordinary powdered herb. Anyone with an existing liver condition or unexplained discomfort in the upper abdomen should speak with a qualified healthcare professional before using it. Sage and black cohosh therefore represent two different approaches. Sage for a pattern dominated by excessive sweating. Black cohosh for the broader combination of hot flashes, night sweats, and menopausal restlessness. But there is also a third approach, and it comes not from the medicine cabinet, but from the kitchen. In East Asian food traditions, soybeans have been part of everyday life for centuries. Foods such as tofu, tempeh, edamame, and soy milk naturally provide isoflavones, plant compounds with hormone-like properties. But soy does not act like an immediate remedy for a single hot flash. It belongs to a longer-term nutritional approach. The isoflavones in soy are also processed differently from one person to another, which helps explain why some women respond more noticeably than others. It is equally important to distinguish between traditional soy foods and highly concentrated isoflavone supplements. A whole food is not automatically comparable to an isolated extract. This leaves us with three clearly different approaches. Sage belongs to a pattern dominated by excessive sweating. Black cohosh belongs to the broader menopausal pattern of hot flashes, night sweats, and restlessness. Soy foods belong to a long-term nutritional strategy. So three remedies can all be connected to the same symptom while still fitting three very different situations. But even when the hot flashes begin to ease, many women notice another change. Your body starts to change. And one of the most common places this becomes visible is around the waist. With the next symptom, this distinction becomes even more important, because one plant compound is now being marketed almost like a weight loss drug. One of the most frustrating experiences during menopause is this. I'm not eating that differently, but suddenly my body responds differently. Fat distribution can begin to shift. At the same time, muscle mass, sleep quality, and daily activity may all decline. Stress and hormonal changes can also influence how the body stores and uses energy. But traditional healing systems did not view weight in isolation. They also looked at digestion, movement, sleep, physical strength, and the body's overall metabolic balance. No herb actively melt away belly fat. And when a product claims that it can, skepticism is warranted. One of the clearest examples is berberine. Few plant compounds have been marketed as aggressively in recent years as berberine. Online, it is even described as nature's Ozempic. But that modern comparison obscures what berberine-containing plants were traditionally used for. Berberine is not a medicinal plant by itself. It is a naturally occurring compound found in several plants, including barberry, golden seal, and Oregon grape. Across different traditional healing systems, plants containing berberine were valued primarily for concerns related to digestion and metabolic function. Today, berberine is usually not taken as a simple herbal tea. It is most often used in concentrated form as a capsule or tablet. Its traditional and modern significance lies more in the areas of digestion, blood sugar metabolism, and internal metabolic regulation. But a compound associated with metabolism is not automatically a remedy for every extra pound. Berberine fits more closely with a metabolic pattern in which blood sugar and blood fat regulation are part of the problem. And because it is taken in concentrated form and can interact with medications, it requires more caution than an ordinary food. For many people, the more sensible first step does not begin with a highly concentrated plant compound. It begins with a plant whose effect is far simpler. Psyllium husk comes from several species of plantain and was traditionally valued for its swelling, regulating properties. As soon as it comes into contact with water, its soluble fiber forms a thick, gel-like mass. That simple physical effect is what makes psyllium useful for digestion, fullness, and the rise in blood sugar after meals. Psyllium mainly changes how quickly food moves through the digestive tract and how rapidly certain nutrients are absorbed. It is a much more grounded approach than taking a highly concentrated metabolic extract. Psyllium should always be taken with plenty of water and never swallowed dry. It should also be taken separately from medications because fiber can affect how well they are absorbed. The difference can be summarized clearly. Berberine is a concentrated plant compound suited to a more specific metabolic pattern. Psyllium works through fiber, digestion, and satiety, so this is not a comparison between a strong remedy and a weak one. They are two entirely different approaches, and sometimes the simpler approach is the better fit. But what happens when the problem is not your weight? What happens when your own mind suddenly feels unfamiliar? Interestingly, older herbal texts often describe this state very differently, not as memory loss, but as fading nervous strength or mental exhaustion. Many women expect hot flashes. Brain fog, however, often catches them completely off guard. A familiar name suddenly disappears. A thought vanishes halfway through a sentence. You stand in the grocery store and can no longer remember what you came in to buy. And quickly, a worrying question appears. Is something wrong with my memory? But traditional healing systems did not separate mental clarity from sleep, nervous strength, and exhaustion. Terms such as mental fatigue, nervous weakness, or declining vitality often described a much broader pattern than simple forgetfulness. That is why brain fog is not automatically a memory problem. Sometimes the missing piece is concentration, sometimes it is energy, and sometimes the mental exhaustion begins long before morning during the night. Although lion's mane is now marketed almost entirely as a mushroom for memory, its traditional role was much broader. It was valued as a nourishing food believed to support mental clarity, the nervous system, and overall vitality. Its distinctive fruiting body resembles a flowing white lion's mane, which is where its modern name comes from. Traditionally, the mushroom was eaten as food. Today, it is also available as a powder or concentrated extract, and depending on how it is processed, the composition and strength can vary considerably. Lion's mane belongs most clearly to this pattern. The mind feels slow, foggy, or less resilient than it used to. The focus is on concentration, mental clarity, and nervous strength. But what if concentration is fading, not because the mind itself feels weak, but because the entire person is exhausted? Then a different plant may be a much better fit. Rhodiola grew in places where life demanded a great deal from the body, the cold, rugged highlands of Europe and Asia. That is why the root was traditionally regarded as a plant of endurance and resilience. It was valued during demanding periods of life, when both physical and mental strength began to decline. Rhodiola is therefore not primarily associated with forgetfulness. It belongs more closely to the pattern of exhaustion behind poor concentration. The distinction is simple. Lion's mane is associated with mental clarity, concentration, and nervous strength. Rhodiola is associated with mental energy, resilience, and the ability to withstand prolonged strain. Because rhodiola can feel stimulating, it is usually taken earlier in the day. Anyone who takes medication regularly or has a history of mental health conditions should speak with a qualified healthcare professional before using it. Ginkgo is one of the oldest tree species on Earth. In modern herbal medicine, standardized extracts made from its distinctive fan-shaped leaves are the form most commonly used. Ginkgo is traditionally associated with circulation, memory, and mental clarity. But treating brain fog as nothing more than a memory problem often misses the real cause. When poor sleep, chronic stress, or exhaustion lies behind the mental fog, a classic memory remedy alone is unlikely to address the full pattern. So the most important distinction is this. Does the mind itself feel unclear? Is the entire person exhausted? Or is the body simply not recovering at night? Because sometimes the solution to brain fog does not begin with the brain. It begins with sleep. 3 women can say the exact same thing. I'm not sleeping well. And yet the problem may be completely different in each case. The first lies awake because her mind simply will not switch off. The second feels tired, but her entire body remains tense. The third falls asleep without difficulty, only to wake later from a sudden hot flash. The result is the same for all 3. Sleep is missing, but the pattern behind it is not. Traditional herbal medicine did not use every calming plant for every form of sleeplessness. Historical herbal texts often made surprisingly careful distinctions between a restless mind, a tense body, and a person worn down by exhaustion. Passion flower is native to the Americas and later became firmly established in European herbal medicine. It was especially valued when restlessness, racing thoughts, and nervous tension made it difficult to fall asleep. Passion flower belongs to this pattern. The body is tired, but the mind keeps running. It is commonly used as a tea, tincture, or extract. Traditionally, it was not viewed as a heavy sedative. Its role was gentler, to help the body move from inner restlessness into a state of calm. Valerian is one of the classic European herbs for nervous tension and sleep problems. The root is the part most commonly used. In historical herbal traditions, valerian was associated with an overstimulated, tense nervous system. While passion flower fits more closely with a restless mind, valerian belongs more to physical tension and nervous agitation. The difference is simple. Passion flower for the mind that will not switch off. Valerian for the body that will not let go. Hops is far more than an ingredient in beer. In European herbal medicine, it was valued for its calming properties. The flower cones became one of the classic traditional remedies for restlessness and sleep problems, and were often combined with valerian. Hops also connects 2 common menopausal patterns: sleeplessness and nighttime heat. It may therefore be especially well suited when the body cannot fully settle, and sensations of heat repeatedly disturb sleep. Reishi follows a very different traditional approach. In East Asian medicine, the mushroom was not regarded as an ordinary sleep remedy. Instead, it was associated with calm, restoration, and inner resilience. Reishi belongs to a more persistent pattern. You feel tired, but never truly settled. You sleep, yet still wake without feeling fully restored. Or the body has been under strain for weeks and struggles to return to a regenerative state. The 4 approaches can therefore be clearly distinguished. Passion flower for racing thoughts, valerian for physical tension, hops for sleep problems accompanied by nighttime heat, reishi for prolonged exhaustion and poor recovery. But poor sleep rarely remains confined to the night. It begins to affect patience, mood, and the ability to cope with stress. And that is where the next pattern begins. Many women experience menopause as an emotional roller coaster. Small things suddenly feel overwhelming. Patience wears thin, worries become louder, and after several poor nights of sleep, the ability to cope seems to shrink even further. Here too, traditional healing systems did not treat mood as a single problem. They distinguished between nervous exhaustion, inattention, racing thoughts, and a persistently low emotional state. Today, ashwagandha is often marketed as a universal herb for stress. But in Ayurveda, it was not simply viewed as a remedy for stress itself. It was regarded as a strengthening plant for people whose resilience had been worn down by prolonged strain. Ashwagandha belongs most clearly to this pattern. You feel tense and exhausted at the same time. The body remains under pressure, even as its reserves are beginning to fade. Today, ashwagandha is most commonly used as a standardized root extract, which can differ considerably from the traditional root powder. It is not equally suitable for everyone, particularly during pregnancy, with certain medical conditions, or when taken alongside regular medications. But not every woman experiences menopause primarily as stress and exhaustion. Sometimes the mood itself becomes the central concern. And that brings us to a very different and often underestimated plant. For centuries, saffron has been one of the most precious medicinal plants and spices in the world. Producing even a small amount requires thousands of delicate flower stigmas to be harvested by hand. Across several traditional healing systems, saffron was valued for lifting the mood, easing emotional heaviness, and supporting a greater sense of inner balance. That makes it distinctly different from ashwagandha. Ashwagandha belongs more closely to the pattern of stress, exhaustion, and declining resilience. Saffron belongs more to mood, emotional brightness, and inner equilibrium. And here, the form matters. This is not simply about the few threads used in cooking. It refers to carefully measured preparations designed to provide a consistent amount. Lemon balm is one of the gentler herbs in the European herbal tradition. It was traditionally valued for nervousness, inner restlessness, racing thoughts, and digestive discomfort linked to tension. As a tea, it can be easily incorporated into everyday life. Lavender also has a long history of use. Its scent was traditionally used to ease inner tension and help the body transition into sleep. Scented pillows, baths, and topical applications all played a role, alongside other herbal preparations. Ordinary lavender essential oil is generally intended for external or aromatic use and should not simply be taken internally. Once again, the patterns are clearly different. Ashwagandha for stress and exhaustion. Saffron for low mood and emotional heaviness. Lemon balm for nervousness and racing thoughts. Lavender for calm and the transition into sleep. But sometimes the missing piece is not the right herb, it is the foundation. Sleep, movement, regular meals, less alcohol, and deliberate periods of recovery. Herbs can offer support, but they cannot replace the foundation on which emotional stability is built. There is another menopausal symptom that many women find especially unsettling. It can appear suddenly, and it often feels far more threatening than the symptoms that came before it. Heart palpitations. You are sitting quietly on the couch, and suddenly your heart starts pounding. Maybe it is beating faster than usual, maybe it skips a beat, or maybe it feels as though it is pounding all the way up into your throat. Heart palpitations like these can occur during menopause. But they can also have many other causes, including thyroid disorders, anemia, heart rhythm problems, certain medications, caffeine, or significant emotional stress. If palpitations are accompanied by chest pain, shortness of breath, fainting, severe dizziness, or a racing heartbeat that does not settle, prompt medical evaluation is important. Heart palpitations are one of the situations where traditional herbal medicine must first recognize its limits. But once serious medical causes have been ruled out, and the pattern is one of nervous restlessness rather than heart disease, two herbs stand out in the European herbal tradition. In European folk medicine, motherwort held a distinctive place when emotional strain seemed to disturb the heart's calm rhythm. The herb was traditionally valued for nervous palpitations, inner restlessness, and feelings of tightness or unease in the chest, especially when stress was felt physically, all the way into the chest. Motherwort was traditionally prepared as a tea or liquid extract. Because of its intensely bitter taste, many people today prefer extracts. Its traditional pattern can be summed up in 2 lines. The heart is not weak, it is restless. Hawthorn also has a long history as an herb for the heart and circulation. Its white blossoms, red berries, and sharp thorns gave it a strong symbolic place in European tradition. In European herbal medicine, hawthorn was associated above all with long-term support for the heart. While motherwort belongs more closely to the nervous, restless heart, hawthorn is traditionally linked with the heart itself, circulation, and physical resilience. The distinction is simple. Motherwort for a heart that reacts to emotional tension. Hawthorn for longer-term support of the heart and circulation. But when anxiety and racing thoughts make the palpitations worse, lemon balm may fit the pattern more closely. Because sometimes the goal is not to act on the heart directly, it is to calm an overstimulated nervous system. Magnesium also plays an important role in the normal function of muscles and nerves, but it is most relevant when an actual deficiency is present. Not every episode of heart palpitations is automatically a sign of low magnesium. Finally, we come to a concern that may feel less threatening, but becomes visible in the mirror every morning. Dry skin and thinning hair often appear together during menopause. But even though they may show up at the same time, the skin and hair do not always need the same kind of support. Traditional healing systems often viewed both as reflections of the body's overall nourishment. Dryness, brittleness, and a gradual loss of fullness were not seen as problems of the surface alone. They also prompted questions about nutrition, digestion, and the body's overall vitality. Sometimes, a plant's habitat already tells part of its story. Sea buckthorn thrives in places where wind, salt, and poor soil have driven away many other plants. For centuries, that resilience helped make it a highly valued food plant in many regions. Sea buckthorn is one of the classic natural remedies associated with dry skin and sensitive mucous membranes. Its berries provide a range of plant compounds and oils with different fatty acid profiles. One of the best known is palmitoleic acid, often referred to as omega-7. Both the pulp oil and the seed oil are used, but their composition is not the same. Sea buckthorn oil is available in capsules as an edible oil and in cosmetic products for topical skincare. That is why it is important to check what the specific product is intended for. A cosmetic skin oil belongs on the skin and is not meant to be swallowed. Sea buckthorn belongs most clearly to this pattern: dryness, sensitive mucous membranes, and skin that lacks protective nourishment from within. When it comes to thinning hair, one of the most familiar plants may already be sitting in the kitchen. But rosemary also has a long tradition as a stimulating herb for the scalp and hair care. Its strong aroma and essential oils made it a classic ingredient in traditional hair tonics and scalp preparations. Rosemary oil is applied externally to the scalp. Because the essential oil is highly concentrated, it should first be diluted in a suitable carrier oil. A small patch test is recommended before the first use. The oil should be kept away from the eyes and should not be applied to irritated or damaged skin. Rosemary therefore belongs to this pattern: external stimulation and care of the scalp. Pumpkin seed oil, by contrast, belongs more to a nutritional approach. Its phytosterols and unsaturated fatty acids have made it a valued, nourishing food in traditional diets. However, when hair loss begins suddenly or becomes more pronounced, looking only at the scalp is not enough. Iron deficiency, thyroid disorders, certain medications, and other underlying health conditions can all play a role and should be properly evaluated. After looking at all of these plants, one decision matters more than any product name. Do not simply treat menopause. First, identify the pattern that is actually dominating your symptoms. When excessive sweating is the main complaint, sage is one of the classic herbs of the European tradition. For more pronounced hot flashes and night sweats, black cohosh belongs to the broader menopausal pattern. Soy foods, by contrast, fit a long-term nutritional approach. When the goal is to support digestion, fullness, and the rise in blood sugar after meals, psyllium husk can be a simple place to begin. Berberine belongs to a more specific metabolic pattern and requires greater care because it is used in concentrated form. With brain fog, the first question is mental clarity itself fading? Then lion's mane may fit the pattern. Is the deeper problem exhaustion and reduced resilience? Then rhodiola may be the better match. Or does the mental fatigue begin with poor sleep long before morning? When racing thoughts prevent sleep, passion flower is one of the classic traditional choices. When physical and nervous tension keep the body from letting go, valerian moves to the foreground. Hops connect sleep problems with nighttime heat. Reishi belongs more to prolonged exhaustion and poor recovery. Ashwagandha fits the pattern of stress, exhaustion, and declining resilience. Saffron was traditionally valued when mood and emotional heaviness became the central concern. For nervous palpitations accompanied by inner restlessness, motherwort stands out. Hawthorn is traditionally associated more with longer-term support for the heart and circulation. For dry skin and sensitive mucous membranes, sea buckthorn is one of the most important nourishing plant oils. And when hair begins to thin, properly diluted rosemary oil can support external scalp care. The same life stage can produce many different symptoms, but even the same symptom can arise from very different patterns, and that is why the most popular remedy is not always the right one. The nearly forgotten principle behind all of these remedies is simple. The name of the symptom does not determine the plant. The pattern in which that symptom appears does. A hot flash may be dominated by excessive sweating, nighttime restlessness, or a broader menopausal pattern. Brain fog may begin in the mind or in a night that no longer provides real recovery. And a heartbeat that suddenly becomes noticeable is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it is simply restless. That is where traditional herbal medicine differed from modern supplement marketing. Modern marketing looks for one plant for one symptom. Traditional herbalists looked for the person behind the symptom. So which change is affecting your daily life the most right now? Do not simply write menopause in the comments. Write the one symptom you want to understand more deeply next. Because behind every one of these symptoms is a different story, and often a nearly forgotten remedy.